Good night, everybody. On what you need, it is 1 o'clock in the morning, and I was going to choose you on there, and I stopped you on me. We're going to talk some controversial fights. Who you thought won? You don't even have to give reasons. You can just say who you thought won. So let's start with the controversial fights. Um, there are several. We'll start with Badou Jack versus Jean Pascal. Who do you guys think won? We'll wait for you guys to come through. I know there are boxing fans out here, even at this hour. There are boxing fans out there. So let's get to cracking. I'm gonna wait for some of you guys to come through. You guys can also mention some controversial fights. I don't have a problem with that. So let's get it cracking. Badou Jack versus Jean Pascal. Who do you guys thought won that fight? You think Jean Pascal won it, or you think Badou Jack won it? Controversial fight number 2, Sugar Ray Leonard versus Marvin Hagler. Who you thought won that fight? Controversial fight number 3, Julio Cesar Chavez versus Pernell Whitaker. Who do you guys think won that fight? Controversial fight number 4. I gotta go with fights that you guys know or I've seen. Alright, so YouTube's playing up its ass, people. So we're gonna want to watch out for that. I had a view that was coming through, and then man, get the fuck off my screen. Yeah, I had a viewer who was coming through, and then all of a sudden the viewer is gone. I think YouTube's trying to fuck us over, but it's all good. Back to what I was saying. So, controversial fights, okay? Oscar De La Hoya versus Felix Trinidad is another one. What you guys think? Shane Mosley versus Oscar De La Hoya is another one. Who you thought won that fight? The second one particularly. So finally you on. Great. Regis Prograis versus Josh Taylor. What do you guys think? People will say, well, that wasn't controversial. Now Inoue versus Nonito Donaire. Now, some people don't think that's controversial. Manny Pacquiao versus Floyd Mayweather. Most people don't think that's controversial. Nonetheless, we're going to put it in there. Mayweather versus Victor Ortiz. Castillo versus Mayweather. First one. Marcos Maidana versus Mayweather. De La Hoya versus Pernell Whitaker. Pernell Whitaker versus Julio Cesar Chavez. So you guys can just start bubbling. Okay. Controversial fights. Let's go. Let's go. It's go time. Who do you guys think won in Danny Garcia versus Lamont Peterson? These are all controversial fights. Keith Thurman versus Danny Garcia. Some people think it's controversial. Sean Porter versus Keith Thurman. Sean Porter versus Danny Garcia. Porter versus Ugas. Kovalev versus Andre Ward, the first fight. Golovkin versus Canelo, the first fight. Controversial fights. Let's go. Let's go. We got. You guys can talk about them. You guys can even bring up some suggestions as well. Yeah. James Toney versus Mike McCallum, the first fight. You guys thought it was a draw? Have you guys ever seen that fight? I meant to talk about fights you guys saw. Abner Mares versus the African kid. I forgot what his name is. It's a controversial fight. Lomachenko versus Salido. Controversial fight. A couple controversial fights. Errol Spence versus Shawn Porter. A bunch of them. Broner versus Paulie Malignaggi. You guys thought won that fight? Zab Judah versus Danny Garcia. Manuel Marquez versus Manny Pacquiao, the third fight. Who you guys thought won that fight? We thought it was a controversial win. You guys saw Bernard Hopkins versus Jermaine Taylor, the first and second fights. Who you thought won those fights? Controversial wins. Kyle Froch versus Andre Dirrell. Who you thought won that fight? You think Dirrell outboxed Kyle Froch, or you thought Kyle Froch beat Andre Dirrell? I don't know why the fuck I'm now starting you on like crazy. I don't know why. Sorry about the F-bombs. Controversial fights. Let's keep talking it. Stevie Johnson versus Jose Luis Castillo, the second fight. It ended up in a draw. Do you think Stevie Johnson won that fight? I want to keep it kind of relatively recent. I could go all the way back in time. Some of those fights you guys don't know about. So I'm going to leave that alone. Lomachenko versus Gary Russell Jr. Do you think that Lomachenko won that fight clearly? Or do you think Gary Russell Jr. actually got himself into a draw? And the second knockdown should have been counted. Controversial fights. Some people believe that Tyson Fury should have beaten Deontay Wilder in the first fight. How you guys feel about that one? And then we have so many fights that were controversial fights in boxing. What do you guys think about Chocolatito versus Ron Visai, the first fight? You guys thought Ron Visai won that first one? All of these are controversial fights, right? Or considered controversial fights. Teofimo Lopez versus the Japanese kid. Did you think the Japanese kid won that fight? Talking on the subject of controversial fights. Controversial fights. You guys can mention some of them. Don't be a stranger now. You think Juan Manuel Marquez lost to, what's the kid's name? What's the guy's name? He had his first shot at a world title. And he lost to a dude. Black dude. Bald head. Forgot what the guy's name is. You think he lost that fight? He did get dropped. Did end up dropping the other guy. Adrian Grimes versus Adrian Broner. Who you thought won that fight? So, I'm gonna leave you guys with that. And that's the last video for today and tomorrow and so on. I'm gonna catch you guys later on what you need. Leave in the comment section other fights that you think were fights that were controversial. I'm gonna catch you guys later on what you need. Peace. I'm out.